95 kilometers. That's the length of the shelves in the Vatican Apostolic Archives. 12 centuries of documents, letters from kings, trials of heretics, secret correspondence between popes and emperors. Most historians never have access to them. Some funds may never be opened. And when a historian finally gets permission to enter, what they find can sometimes change everything we thought we knew about official history. The Vatican Apostolic Archives, renamed in 2019, were officially founded in 1612 under the pontificate of Paul V. But the documents they contain go back to the 8th century. For centuries, access was forbidden to everyone, including bishops. It wasn't until 1881 that Leo XIII opened the archives to accredited researchers. Today, around 1,000 researchers per year get accreditation to work there upon request, with academic justification, and under strict supervision. The documents do not leave. They are not fully digitized. Researchers consult on site, in white gloves, under cameras. Entire sections remain closed without an announced opening date. Official policy: the archives serve the church and history. Reality: access is controlled, selective, and some funds have never been publicly inventoried. The official position of the Vatican is one of an institution gradually opening up to historical research. In 2019, Pope Francis renamed the archives, removing the word secret to clear ambiguity. In March 2020, he opened the Pius XII Fund, covering the pontificate 1939 to 1958, including the years of World War II. This decision had been awaited by historians for decades. The Vatican claims that its archives are the most complete in the world for the medieval and modern periods, and that their access policy is comparable to that of other major national archives. Thousands of documents have been digitized and put online. The Vatican presents this evolution as a voluntary step towards transparency, at its own pace, without external pressure. Officially, nothing is hidden. Everything will be revealed in due time. The Pius XII Fund, finally opened in 2020, immediately posed a question that the Vatican was unable to answer clearly: why wait 62 years? The historians who have consulted these archives since their opening found evidence that the Holy See was informed of Jewish deportations in Europe as early as 1942. Letters, telegrams, consular reports. Pius XII never publicly condemned the Holocaust. The correspondence in his archives shows he knew. The question of papal silence is no longer a question, it's a documented fact. But other funds remain closed. The Secretariat of State Fund, covering the years 1960 to 1978, Paul VI pontificate, is not accessible. Archives on the Vatican's relations with 20th-century authoritarian regimes, Franco, Mussolini, Pinochet, are partially consultable, with unexplained gaps. What has been destroyed, we don't know. What is missing, cannot be proven. What remains closed may speak louder than what has been opened. The most spectacular discovery remains the Act of Shinon, found in 2001 by paleographer Barbara Frail in the very archives of the Vatican. This document, dated 1308, proves that Pope Clement V had secretly absolved the Knights Templar after their trial, while official history remembered their condemnation for heresy and the dissolution of the order in 1312. The document had been misclassified for 700 years. It was there. Nobody had looked for it in the right place. In 1992, the Vatican officially rehabilitated Galileo, 359 years after his condemnation. The original dossier of the trial of 1633 is in the archives. It shows exactly how the Inquisition worked: the pressures, the retractions, the institutional mechanics of forced silence. These two cases, the Templars and Galileo, are not exceptions. They are examples of what the archives contain, and what official history had ignored for centuries: lack of access to primary sources. What historians who have worked in these archives quickly understand: the difference between the history written in textbooks and the history contained in original documents is often abyssal. Not because previous historians lied, but because they didn't have access to the sources. The history of Pius XII's silence during the Holocaust has been debated for 60 years based on indirect testimonies, memories, and reminiscences. Since 2020, there are the letters. The history of the Templars' condemnation as heretics has been taught for 700 years. The secret act of absolution was in a mislabeled box in Rome. This model, institutional truth versus archival truth, repeats itself in all major institutions that control their own archives. The Vatican is not an exception. It is the oldest and most documented example of an institution deciding what official history should remember. In 2024, access to the Vatican Apostolic Archives remains subject to individual accreditation. Around 1,000 researchers per year work there. Digitization is ongoing but partial. The most fragile and sensitive documents are not prioritized. The Pius XII Fund continues to be explored by historians worldwide. The first scientific publications emerging from this opening begin to appear. Some historians have found documents contradicting official positions of the Church. The Vatican has not commented on these publications. Funds covering the second half of the 20th century remain largely closed. The Church announces gradual openings, without a precise schedule. 95 kilometers of shelves. 12 centuries of documents. An act of Templar absolution found after 700 years of oblivion. Letters proving that Rome knew about the Holocaust. These discoveries do not come from journalists or whistleblowers, they come directly from the archives themselves, when access is finally granted. The question is not what the Vatican hides. The question is, how many other institutions control their own history in the same way? Subscribe to not miss the next episode.